$10 million. The words landed so softly that for one ridiculous second, I thought I had imagined them. Then the auctioneer stopped breathing. 200 wealthy strangers turned toward the man holding the paddle, and I realized nobody in that ballroom was confused except me. 8 minutes earlier, I had been a 26-year-old antique restorer with rain in my hair, $14.38 in my checking account, and one simple job: deliver a 70-year-old music box to the Blackthorn Hotel and get back to Brooklyn before the subway became unbearable. Now I stood beneath crystal chandeliers in a room where a single necklace probably cost more than my apartment building, clutching that same mahogany box against my chest while people bid millions for something I did not understand. 3 million, a man called from behind me. My stomach tightened. Another paddle rose. 3.5 million. The auctioneer repeated the number. I looked toward the stage, searching for whatever expensive object had suddenly inspired this madness. There was no painting, no diamond, no sculpture, just an empty pedestal and me standing beside it. "What exactly are you bidding on?" I asked. Nobody answered. Across the aisle, a silver-haired man in a midnight blue tuxedo lifted his paddle. Victor Hale. I had learned his name less than 2 minutes earlier, and already I disliked the way he smiled at me, as though he knew something about my life that I did not. $5 million. A murmur rolled across the ballroom. My fingers tightened around the music box. "Stop." The auctioneer glanced at me. I said stop. This time my voice carried. Every face turned toward me. Good. Let them stare. Whatever arrangement you people think I agreed to, I did not. Victor leaned back comfortably. "Miss Carter, this is simply a matter of securing access to the final lot and its missing companion piece. Then bid on the box." His smile barely changed. "The authentication agreement requires the custodian's participation." Custodian. He meant me. Heat rushed into my face. "I am not part of your auction." That was when I noticed the man in black. He sat near the center aisle, perfectly still while everyone else whispered. Tall, dark hair swept neatly back. Gray eyes fixed on Victor, not me. Two men stood discreetly 20 feet behind him, but he did not need them to look powerful. People checked his expression before raising their paddles. Even Victor seemed aware of him. The stranger finally looked at me, not at my wet coat, not at the inexpensive shoes I suddenly wished I had replaced last winter. At me. Then his gaze dropped to the music box. Something changed in his face. Recognition. 5 million going once, the auctioneer announced. My pulse hammered. Going twice. The man in black lifted his paddle. No hurry. No hesitation. The room became silent before he spoke. $10 million. Victor turned toward him. The auctioneer stared. I forgot how to breathe. Sold. The word echoed beneath the chandeliers. The stranger lowered his paddle and stood. Cancel the custodian clause, he said. The auctioneer blinked. Mr. Blackwood, the agreement is standard. Not anymore. Victor's expression hardened. You paid $10 million to remove one clause. Adrian Blackwood looked at him with almost frightening calm. I paid $10 million to end the bidding. Then his gray eyes returned to mine. She is free to leave. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I stepped toward him, anger burning through my confusion. Who are you? His gaze moved once more to the music box in my hands. Someone who recognizes what you are carrying. My heartbeat slowed. What is that supposed to mean? Adrian's expression changed. Just slightly. It means, Emily, you did not walk into this auction by accident. 8 minutes earlier, the biggest problem in my life was a dying phone battery. I stood beneath the Blackthorn Hotel awning while Manhattan rain bounced off the sidewalk and yellow cabs dragged ribbons of light through the wet street. My phone showed 3%. The time was 6:47 in the evening. I was 17 minutes late. Perfect, I whispered. The mahogany music box beneath my coat felt heavier than it had in Brooklyn. I had spent 14 hours restoring its brass mechanism, repairing a cracked hinge, and cleaning decades of dust from tiny hand-painted flowers around the lid. My boss, Mr. Levin, had been unusually serious when he handed it to me. Deliver it personally. Do not leave it with hotel staff. Get a signature. Simple instructions. I pushed through the revolving door and entered a lobby that made me immediately aware of every cheap thing I was wearing. White marble, gold fixtures, fresh flowers taller than I was. A pianist played near the bar, while people crossed the floor in clothes that probably required appointments to purchase. I approached the concierge desk. Delivery for the Harrington collection. The woman glanced at the case under my arm. Private event? I guess so. She pointed toward a bank of elevators. 32nd floor. At least, that was what I heard. A family with luggage crossed between us. Someone called her name, and I was already moving. I reached an elevator just as the doors began closing and slipped inside. Then I noticed there were no floor buttons. Dark walnut walls surrounded me. A brass panel displayed only a small card reader glowing green. That seems normal, I muttered. The elevator started upward before I could escape. My phone rang. Mr. Levin, please tell me the client moved downstairs. Emily, where are you? His voice sounded wrong. Tight. Elevator. Which elevator? I looked around. The one without buttons. Silence. Emily, listen to me. You were supposed to use the service elevator. My stomach dropped. That would have been useful information 10 minutes ago. When the doors open, do not give anyone the box. Static swallowed half his next sentence. Mr. Levin? Especially if they recognize it. The call died. My screen went black. The elevator chimed. I stared at my reflection in the brass doors. Wet chestnut hair. Tired green eyes. A 26-year-old woman who suddenly wished she had stayed home. The doors opened onto a corridor of black marble and soft golden light. Two men in dark suits stood near enormous double doors. One stepped forward. Invitation, ma'am? I am making a delivery. His attention dropped immediately to the music box. Too immediately. For whom? The Harrington collection. Something passed between the two men. Your name? Emily Carter. He checked a tablet. You are not on the guest list. Because I am not a guest. I gave him my best exhausted smile. I restore old things. Usually nobody serves champagne while I do it. Neither man smiled. Then music and distant voices drifted through the doors behind them. An auctioneer announced a number. $1 million. I took a step backward toward the elevator. Clearly, I have the wrong floor. Wait. The word came from beyond the doors. Calm. Mail. The guards turned. The doors opened wider, revealing crystal chandeliers, tuxedos, evening gowns, and rows of people facing a brightly lit stage. Near the center aisle, a tall man in a black suit had risen from his chair. His gray eyes were not on me. They were fixed on the box beneath my arm. And before I knew his name, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Mr. Levin had been right. Someone recognized it. I should have turned around when I saw the way everyone looked at the music box. Instead, I stepped into the ballroom because curiosity has always been my most expensive bad habit. The tall man in black remained standing near the center aisle, his gray eyes fixed on the mahogany case beneath my arm. Nobody introduced him. Nobody needed to. The room reacted to him before he moved. Conversations faded. A server carrying champagne slowed. Even the auctioneer waited. Where did you get that? He asked. His voice was quiet, almost polite. Levin Antique Restoration in Brooklyn. Who brought it there? A client. Name. I tightened my grip. You first. A few guests turned toward each other. The man studied me for a second. Adrian Blackwood. The name meant nothing to me then, but judging by everyone else, it was supposed to mean everything. Emily Carter, I said. And I am already on the wrong floor. So if someone could point me toward the Harrington collection, I would appreciate it. A soft laugh came from my right. A silver-haired man in a midnight blue tuxedo rose from the front row. There is no Harrington collection here, Miss Carter. Apparently. Not anywhere, he said. It was dissolved 12 years ago. The cold that moved through me had nothing to do with my wet coat. That is impossible. My employer received the delivery request 3 weeks ago. Adrian's attention sharpened. Who signed the request? I do not know. Then perhaps you should find out before handing that box to anyone. The silver-haired man approached just far enough for the light to catch his cufflinks. Victor Hale, he said. And Mr. Blackwood is correct about one thing. You should be careful. I looked between them. That is remarkably unhelpful. Victor smiled. May I see the box? No, his smile paused. You misunderstand. I understand that my employer told me not to give it to anyone. I stepped toward the elevator. So that is exactly what I am going to do. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Mr. Hale, there is another issue. He held up a printed catalog and pointed toward an image of a carved walnut cabinet displayed on the stage. Along its front was a pattern of hand-painted flowers almost identical to those on my music box. My stomach tightened. The final lot was cataloged with a missing companion piece, the auctioneer said. This appears to be it. Appears to be, I repeated. That does not make it yours. Victor returned to his seat. Then let us establish access for authentication. The auctioneer hesitated. The acquisition agreement grants the successful bidder temporary examination rights to the companion piece, subject to the custodian's participation. I stared at him. Custodian. His eyes moved toward me. You. I almost laughed. Absolutely not. A paddle rose behind me. $1 million. My breath stopped. Another bidder answered. 1.5 million. Wait. The auctioneer continued. 2 million. Victor lifted his paddle. 3 million. I stepped into the aisle. Nobody asked for my permission. Another voice called. 3.5 million. Victor barely blinked. 5 million. My anger finally burned through the confusion. Stop. Adrian had not moved. Not once. The auctioneer raised his gavel. 5 million going once. I looked at Adrian, although I still do not know why. His expression had changed. The calm remained, but something underneath it had hardened. Going twice. Adrian raised his paddle. $10 million. Silence swallowed the room. Victor slowly turned toward him. The auctioneer stared down at his notes. 10 million. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Adrian lowered the paddle. Remove the custodian requirement. The auctioneer blinked. Mr. Blackwood, that condition is attached to the lot. Then detach it. Victor leaned back. You just spent $10 million to prevent her participation? Adrian finally looked at me. No, he said. I spent $10 million to make sure participation remained her choice. $10 million should have made me feel rescued. Instead, it made me furious. The auctioneer lowered his gavel. Conversations returned in cautious whispers, and Adrian Blackwood stood there as if spending 8 figures to rewrite the rules of a room was perfectly ordinary. I walked straight toward him. What exactly do you think you just bought? His gray eyes stayed on mine. The final lot. Try again. A few people nearby suddenly became very interested in their champagne glasses. You paid $10 million, removed an agreement involving me, and now everyone is staring like I came with the furniture. You did not. Then say it clearly. Adrian paused. You are not for sale. The words were simple. No performance. No smile. Somehow that irritated me more. Good, because I do not care whether you have $10 million or $10 billion. Nobody gets to make decisions about me without asking. Victor Hale watched from several yards away, his expression carefully neutral. Adrian glanced toward him, then back at me. Fair. I blinked. Fair. You are right. That was not the response I had prepared myself to fight. Then why did you bid? Because Hale wanted the authentication clause. He wanted the box. He wanted access to whoever could authenticate the box. Adrian's gaze dropped briefly toward my hands. That appears to be you. I looked down at the mahogany case. I restored a music box. That does not make me part of some secret agreement. I agree. You agree with me a lot for someone who just spent $10 million without explaining anything. A faint change touched his expression. Almost amusement. I am learning quickly. I should not have found that funny. I refused to let myself. Victor approached us. This little misunderstanding has become unnecessarily dramatic. Little. I turned toward him. 5 minutes ago, strangers were bidding millions while a contract described me as a custodian. A technical designation. Then technically, I hated it. Adrian looked away for half a second, hiding what might have been a smile. Victor did not bother. The companion piece needs authentication, Miss Carter. That is all. Then I will authenticate it for the person who actually owns it. And who would that be? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Mr. Levin had never told me the client's name. My dead phone suddenly felt like a brick in my pocket. Adrian nodded toward the box. May I see it? I tightened my arms around it. He stopped immediately. That was not permission, I said. I know. Something about that answer made me hesitate. Finally, I carried the box to an empty display table and set it beneath the chandelier light. I opened the lid myself. Inside, a tiny brass ballerina rested against faded blue velvet. Adrian stayed 3 feet away. There, he said. Upper left corner. I leaned closer. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed a tiny embossed mark hidden beneath the velvet seam. A black tree enclosed by a thin silver circle. Victor's face changed. Adrian's did too. What is it? I asked. Neither answered quickly enough. I am getting tired of asking questions twice. Adrian finally spoke. It is a Blackwood family mark. I looked from the symbol to him. Your family? Yes. So this belongs to you? Not necessarily. Victor stepped closer. There are other possibilities. You seem nervous about those possibilities, I said. His expression cooled. Adrian studied the velvet lining. Has this interior ever been removed? That question I could answer. I ran my fingertip gently along the seam. The stitching was old, but not original. The adhesive beneath it had aged differently from the wood. Someone replaced this lining decades ago. My restoration instincts took over. For the first time all evening, I forgot the money, the chandeliers, and the people watching. I saw craftsmanship. Layers. A secret someone had carefully hidden. Near the lower edge, my finger found a slight ridge beneath the velvet. There is something under here. Victor took one step forward. Adrian lifted one hand, and Victor stopped. Adrian did not touch me or the box. He simply asked, "Can you open it without damaging it?" I looked at him. Probably. Then you decide what happens next. I reached into my bag for my restoration tools. Before I could remove them, a broad-shouldered man in a dark suit approached Adrian and whispered something I could not hear. Adrian's expression changed immediately. What? I asked. He looked toward the ballroom entrance. Someone downstairs is asking hotel staff about a woman matching your description. My fingers went cold. Who? They did not give a name. I stared at the hidden ridge beneath the velvet, then at the doors I had wanted so badly to escape through only minutes earlier. Adrian stepped aside, leaving the path completely open. You can leave, Emily. His eyes moved to the music box. But I think whoever sent you here expected you to find what is hidden inside it. I looked at the ballroom doors, then back at the music box. Leaving would have been the sensible choice. I could have walked downstairs, found a cab, returned to Brooklyn, and let rich strangers argue about their secrets without me. But Mr. Levin had sent me here. Someone downstairs was asking about me. And beneath my fingertips was a hidden compartment inside an object I had spent 14 hours restoring without ever knowing it existed. I am staying, I said. Adrian gave a single nod. Then not here. Why? Too many people are watching. I glanced around. He was right. Half the ballroom was pretending not to listen. Victor was not pretending at all. Somewhere private, Adrian continued. Private does not mean locked. Agreed. Nobody takes the box. Agreed. Nobody takes my bag, and nobody decides where I go afterward. His expression remained calm. Agreed. I narrowed my eyes. Do you ever argue? Frequently. Just not with me. You have been correct so far. That almost made me smile. Almost. Adrian led me from the ballroom with the broad-shouldered man beside us. Marcus Reed. The man introduced himself. I work with Adrian. That description felt intentionally incomplete, but I had bigger questions. We took another elevator 3 floors higher. This one had buttons, which felt strangely comforting. The doors opened into a private suite overlooking Manhattan. Rain traced silver lines down floor-to-ceiling windows. The room was elegant but restrained. Dark wood, old books, a grand piano, no crowd, no auction paddles, no Victor Hale. I placed the music box on a table myself. Better, I said. Adrian removed his jacket and set it over a chair. Would you like something dry to wear? No coffee. No food. Still no. You have refused 3 reasonable offers in less than 10 seconds. I am establishing a pattern. A quiet laugh escaped Marcus before he covered it with a cough. Adrian looked at him. Find Mr. Levin. Marcus nodded and left. I opened my restoration kit. Under the warmer light, the difference in the velvet seam became obvious. This lining was replaced a long time ago, I said. Maybe 30 years. Maybe more. Adrian remained across the table. Can you lift it? Yes, if nobody rushes me. Nobody will. I worked a thin tool beneath the seam and slowly loosened the aged adhesive. Inch by inch, the velvet lifted without tearing. Beneath it was a narrow brass plate fitted directly into the wood. 4 tiny rotating wheels sat in the center. Each wheel carried letters. I stared at them. That is not part of the original mechanism. Adrian stepped closer, stopping before reaching the table. A combination lock. Looks like it. 4 letters. I nodded. My mother had loved 4-letter puzzles. The thought arrived so suddenly that my hand stopped. Sunday mornings. Notes hidden beneath cereal bowls. Clues taped behind family photographs. Whenever I complained that I could not solve one, She always gave me the same hint. Start with the place you are trying to protect. My throat tightened. I turned the wheels slowly. H-O-M-E click. Adrian went completely still. A hidden panel released beneath the brass plate. Inside rested a folded document, a small brass key, and an old photograph. I reached for the photograph first. My mother stood in the center, younger than I remembered her, smiling beside two men. One was my grandfather, Daniel Caldwell. The other looked unmistakably like an older version of Adrian. I looked up. Who is this? Adrian stared at the photograph. My father. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. My mother knew your father? Apparently very well. I unfolded the document. At the top were two names printed side by side. Blackwood and Caldwell. I stopped breathing. Caldwell had been my mother's maiden name. Before I could ask another question, Marcus returned. He closed the door behind him and looked directly at me. Emily, Levin's shop is closed. His apartment is empty. A neighbor saw him leave this afternoon with 2 suitcases. My eyes dropped to the document in my hands. Mr. Levin had not accidentally sent me to the wrong place. He had disappeared before I ever arrived. Adrian looked at the photograph, then at me. Emily, I do not think you were chosen because you restored this box. His gaze shifted to the open compartment. I think you were chosen because your mother was Anna Caldwell. My mother had been gone for 11 years, but hearing her full name and Adrian Blackwood's voice made the room feel suddenly smaller. I looked down at the photograph again. Anna Caldwell stood between my grandfather and Adrian's father, smiling as though the three of them had shared something important enough to preserve. How do you know her name? I asked. Adrian did not answer quickly enough. Adrian. His gray eyes met mine. My grandfather worked with Daniel Caldwell. Worked with him how? They created a private trust together. I unfolded the document carefully across the table. The paper was old but remarkably well preserved. Dates, property descriptions, legal clauses, signatures. I recognized my grandfather's name near the bottom. Beside it was Blackwood. My grandfather never mentioned your family. Mine rarely mentioned yours. That is convenient. It is frustrating for me too. I looked up. You have $10 million to spend on an auction. Forgive me if our definitions of frustrating are different. Marcus lowered his eyes, hiding another smile. Adrian did not. Fair. I studied the document again. Restoration had taught me to trust physical details before stories. Paper fibers, ink, pressure marks, repairs. People could lie. Objects usually needed help doing it. This document is original, I said. At least the paper appears consistent with its age. Adrian moved slightly closer. What does the trust control? Marcus answered. Several commercial properties and investment holdings originally shared by both families. How much are they worth? Neither man spoke. I looked between them. That much. Adrian rested one hand on the back of a chair. Enough for Victor Hale to care. I exhaled slowly. And where do I fit into this? Adrian pointed toward a paragraph near the bottom without touching the page. Read that clause. I followed the lines. The language was formal, but the meaning was painfully clear. If the Caldwell trustee could no longer serve, authority passed through direct family succession. My mother inherited this. Yes. And after her? Silence answered me. I stared at Adrian. Me? If the trust remains legally valid. I laughed once because the alternative was panic. I spent last Tuesday negotiating a $12 refund for a broken toaster. Adrian's mouth moved slightly. That does not disqualify you. I have $14 in my checking account. $14.38. My head snapped up. How do you know that? For the first time, Adrian looked genuinely confused. Then I realized what I had said downstairs. I mentioned it at the auction. You did, right? I rubbed my forehead. This night is destroying my ability to think. Adrian glanced toward the kitchen. Coffee. Fine. Progress. He poured it himself instead of calling anyone. No assistant. No silver tray. Just black coffee in a plain white mug. When he returned, I reached for it too quickly and caught my finger against the sharp edge of my restoration tool. Ow. A thin scrape appeared across my fingertip. Adrian immediately reached toward my hand, then stopped. May I? The question surprised me. Not because it was complicated. Because he had remembered. I nodded. He brought a small first aid kit, cleaned the scrape, and placed a bandage over it with careful hands. You do not have to treat me like glass, I said. I am not. Then what are you doing? Trying not to make another decision for you. Something inside me softened despite every reason it should not have. You learn quickly. You mentioned that. I almost smiled. Then my eyes returned to the document, and I noticed handwriting beneath the final clause. My mother's handwriting. 6 words in faded blue ink. If Victor Hale finds this, everything changes. The warmth disappeared from my hands. Adrian. He leaned closer. I pointed to the sentence. His expression became unreadable. What did my mother know about Victor? I asked. Adrian was silent. Again. This time I recognized the silence for what it was. Not confusion. Not caution. Knowledge. I slowly pulled my hand away from his. You already know something, do you not? I held Adrian's gaze and waited. He could silence a ballroom with one sentence, but somehow the truth seemed harder for him to say. Yes, he admitted. I know something. My chest tightened. Then start talking. Marcus shifted near the window, but Adrian gave him a small look, and he remained silent. 6 months ago, I found references to the Caldwell Trust in my father's archived records, Adrian said. Most of the original documents were missing. And my mother? Her name appeared several times. I stared at him. You knew Anna Caldwell was connected to your family before tonight. Yes. You knew Victor Hale was connected too. Another pause. Yes. I stepped away from the table. The coffee suddenly tasted bitter in my mouth. And you waited until I opened the box to tell me any of this. I did not know you were Anna's daughter. But once I told you, Adrian said nothing. That was enough. You kept asking questions while already holding half the answers. I needed to confirm what the box contained. No, you needed control. His jaw tightened, but he did not argue. Maybe I did. I laughed quietly. At least that answer is honest. I folded the document and returned it to the hidden compartment. Emily, there is more you need to know. That sentence would have been useful an hour ago. My father believed the Caldwell Trust protected assets from people who wanted to divide them. Victor believed those assets should have been sold years ago. And what do you believe? I believe the decision belongs to whoever legally inherited the Caldwell authority. Me? Possibly. There is that word again. I closed the music box. Possibly. Apparently. Maybe. You know what all those words have in common. They keep me dependent on whoever has more information. Adrian looked at me for a long moment. What do you want? To leave. Marcus glanced toward him. I saw the reaction. Small, but clear. They both understood that Adrian could make leaving difficult if he chose. That realization settled coldly inside me. Adrian walked to the suite door. He opened it. Then leave. I stared at him. That is it. That is it. You are not going to tell me it is unsafe? I think it is. You are not going to insist Marcus comes with me? No, why? His expression softened. Because protecting you does not give me ownership of your choices. For one dangerous second, I wanted to believe him completely. That was exactly why I needed distance. I picked up my bag in the music box. The document stays with me. It belongs with you. I walked past him. He did not touch my arm. He did not block the doorway. He did not call after me. 40 minutes later, I reached my apartment building in Brooklyn. The rain had weakened to a cold mist, and the familiar smell of the bakery downstairs should have made everything feel normal again. It did not. I climbed 3 flights, reached apartment 4C, and stopped. A cream-colored envelope rested against my door. My name was written across the front in precise black ink. Emily Carter. No stamp. No return address. Someone had placed it there by hand. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single card. Mr. Hale would like to explain what Mr. Blackwood chose not to tell you. Beneath the sentence was an address 12 blocks away and a time. 10 o'clock tonight. I checked the hallway clock. 9:42. For a moment, I considered throwing the card away. Then I remembered Adrian's silence. 6 months of records. My mother's warning. Victor's name written in faded blue ink. I looked at my apartment door, then back at the address. 18 minutes. 12 blocks. I slipped the card into my coat pocket. If powerful men were going to keep telling me pieces of my own family story, I was done waiting for them to decide which pieces I deserved to hear. Victor Hale chose a brownstone 12 blocks from my apartment, which somehow made the invitation feel more unsettling than if he had summoned me to another marble ballroom. At 9:58, I stood beneath a narrow awning while rain whispered against the sidewalk. I had left the music box locked inside my apartment, but the original trust document was folded inside my coat. I wanted one thing with me that belonged to my family. Victor opened the door before I knocked. Miss Carter, you have 10 minutes. Adrian has already influenced your manners. 9 minutes and 55 seconds. His smile weakened. Good. He led me into a quiet study lined with old books and framed photographs. A folder waited on the desk. You came because you suspect Blackwood withheld information. I came because everyone tonight seems determined to tell me what other people are hiding. Victor opened the folder. Then let us remove some uncertainty. He slid a photocopied agreement toward me. My mother's signature appeared near the bottom. Beside it was the signature of Adrian's father. The date was 11 years ago, 3 weeks before my mother died. My throat tightened. What is this? An amendment to the Caldwell Trust. What kind of amendment? One granting the Blackwood family controlling authority if the Caldwell trustee failed to fulfill certain obligations. I read the page twice. Adrian knew about this? Ask him. I am asking you. Victor leaned back. His family spent years looking for the original trust. Adrian resumed that search 6 months ago. That part matched Adrian's confession. I hated that. Why are you showing me this? Victor smiled. Because the truth benefits me. Finally, an answer I believed. You want the trust assets. I want them available for acquisition. Blackwood wants control. You, apparently, stand between both outcomes. I looked at my mother's signature. Something about the document bothered me, but exhaustion made every thought feel wrapped in fog. I am leaving. Victor did not stop me. Keep the copy. I folded it and walked outside. Halfway down the block, a black sedan waited beneath a streetlight. Adrian stood beside it. He did not approach. Did you follow me? I asked. No, then how did you know? Victor sent Marcus a message after you arrived. I let out a humorless laugh. He wanted you here. He wanted me to stop you. And are you going to? No, I held up the photocopy. Your father signed an amendment with my mother 3 weeks before she died. Did you know? Adrian looked at the page, then at me. I knew a copy existed. For how long? 6 months. The answer landed harder than the rain. So there it is. Emily, you knew this before tonight. Yes. And you still decided what I should hear and when I should hear it. Adrian lowered his eyes. Yes. No excuse. Somehow that made my anger cleaner. You keep calling it protection. I was wrong. You were controlling the information. Yes. I stared at him, almost frustrated that he refused to defend himself. Then what happens now? Adrian opened the sedan door, reached inside, and removed a thick folder. He held it toward me. Everything my family has on the Caldwell Trust. Copies only. No conditions. I took it. And if I walk away? You walk away. If I never call you? His expression barely changed, but I saw the answer cost him something. Then I respect that. I looked down at the folder. Why? Because if you stay only because I closed every other door, then you never chose to stay. For the first time that night, Adrian stepped backward instead of closer. He got into the sedan and left me beneath the streetlight with the truth in my hands. Back in my apartment, I spread Victor's photocopy, Adrian's records, and my mother's original document across the kitchen table. Midnight passed. Then 1. Then 2. I could not trust Victor. I could not trust Adrian. So I trusted the one thing I had spent years learning to read. Old paper. Under my desk lamp, I studied the photocopy again. Margins. Letter spacing. Signature placement. Then I saw it. The paragraph granting Blackwood control sat slightly closer to the line beneath it than every other paragraph on the page. Tiny. Almost invisible. But restoration had taught me that almost invisible was where people hid mistakes. I compared it with the original. My pulse quickened. The amendment Victor gave me had been altered. By 8 the next morning, I had slept for 43 minutes and learned more about document fraud than I ever wanted to know. Victor's photocopy lay beneath my desk lamp beside my mother's original trust and the records Adrian had given me. I kept returning to the same paragraph. Wrong spacing. Different alignment. A sentence inserted so carefully that most people would never question it. But I spent my life noticing what did not belong. At 9:15, I called Adrian. I need the Blackthorn Ballroom at noon. He was silent for a moment. Why? Because Victor underestimated the woman carrying the box. At noon, sunlight replaced the rain against the hotel windows. Victor stood beside the same table where millions had changed hands the night before. Adrian remained near the windows. Marcus placed the Blackwood records beside me, then stepped away. Nobody spoke for me. That mattered. You altered the amendment, I told Victor. His expression barely moved. That is a serious accusation. Good thing I brought evidence. I placed his photocopy beside a certified archival copy from Adrian's records. The paragraph granting Blackwood control does not belong there. Victor gave a dismissive smile. You restore antiques, Miss Carter. You are not an attorney. Correct. I also do not need a law degree to recognize inconsistent document formatting. I pointed to the text. The spacing changes here. The baseline shifts. The type is slightly compressed. Whoever created this version inserted language into an existing scan. His smile disappeared. I continued. And there is another problem. The original. Trust references the brass key hidden inside the music box. Your amendment removes that reference because whoever altered this copy did not know the key existed. Adrian opened the archival file. The matching clause was there. Same date. Same reference. Same language as my mother's original. Victor looked at Adrian. You expect this room to accept her interpretation? Adrian's answer was calm. This is not my decision. Then he looked at me. It is hers. For the first time since I had entered the Blackthorn Hotel, power did not feel like something surrounding me. It felt like something returning to me. I folded my mother's document carefully. The Caldwell Authority remains independent. I will have attorneys verify everything before I sign anything, sell anything, or transfer anything. Victor's jaw tightened. You have no idea what you are managing. Yesterday, that might have frightened me. I picked up the music box. Today, it sounds like a reason to learn. Victor left without another word. The ballroom doors closed behind him. Silence returned, but this time it belonged to me. Adrian walked over slowly. You came back. I came back for the truth. That is fair. I smiled. You really like that word now. Someone has been teaching me. We stood beneath the chandeliers where, less than 24 hours earlier, I had believed a stranger had placed a $10 million price on me. I still have one question, I said. Why 10 million? Adrian glanced toward the auction table. Victor offered $5 million for an agreement that would have given him access to the box and required your participation. I doubled it so nobody else would continue. You could have just explained that. Yesterday, I was better at ending conversations than having them. And today, I am trying. I studied him. So what do you think I am worth? His eyes met mine. Nothing. I raised an eyebrow. You may want to reconsider that answer. A faint smile appeared. No. A price is for something a person believes they can own. You taught me the difference. I looked down at the music box my mother had hidden the truth inside, then back at the man who had spent $10 million, only to learn that money was the least important thing between us. Adrian could buy every object in that ballroom. What he could not buy was my trust. If he wanted that, he would have to earn it. And for the first time, I believed he understood.